For the first time in over half a century, the people of Mogadishu are choosing their local leaders directly. This isn't just an election. It's a fragile, dangerous experiment in democracy, born from the ashes of civil war, and its success or failure will reshape the entire Horn of Africa. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host, and we are taking you deep inside the story that many thought was impossible: Somalia's capital votes in the first step to restoring universal suffrage. To understand why this single day in Mogadishu is so monumental, you have to understand what came before. Universal suffrage, where every adult citizen gets a direct vote, has been absent from Somalia since 1969. That was the year a military coup brought Syed Barre to power, dismantling democratic institutions and plunging the nation into decades of dictatorship. His overthrow in 1991 didn't bring freedom, it brought collapse. The state fragmented. Hordes ruled, and then came the al-Shabaab insurgency, which for years controlled Mogadishu itself, banning any notion of democratic process under its harsh interpretation of Sharia law. For over 30 years, Somali politics has been a game for elites. Clan elders selected parliamentary representatives, who in turn voted for the president. It was an indirect, often corrupt system, insulated from the will of the people and perpetually vulnerable to manipulation and violence. The current president, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, is himself a product of this system, now in his second non-consecutive term. His administration, backed by international partners like the United Nations and the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia, or ATMIS, has staked its legacy on a promise to transition to a one-person, one-vote national election by the end of 2024. What's happening in Mogadishu right now is the critical, high-stakes pilot project for that entire national ambition. The timeline is brutally tight. These district council elections in the capital are the test run. If they succeed without major violence or fraud, the model is to be rolled out across federal member states. If they fail, the entire democratic roadmap could disintegrate, casting the country back into a cycle of contested legitimacy and instability. So, what exactly is happening on the ground in Mogadishu? This initial phase focuses on electing local district councilors. Think of it as the foundational layer of governance. Over several days, in a staggered process for security reasons, registered voters in specific districts are going to polling stations to choose their local representatives. The numbers are cautious but significant. According to the Somali National Electoral Commission, nearly 1 million people have registered to vote across the city's districts. Each district will elect councillors, who will then select a district mayor. Later, these councillors will form an electoral college to vote for the mayor of Mogadishu, a powerful position currently held by Yusuf Hassan Jimil, who was appointed under the old system. The official statements are full of determined optimism. President Mohamud has called this a historic milestone and a victory for the Somali people over the enemies of peace. The Electoral Commission chairperson, Halima Ismail Ibrahim, has emphasized rigorous training for poll workers and stringent verification processes to prevent multiple voting. But the key statistics tell a story of immense challenge. Mogadishu's population is estimated at over 2.5 million. 1 million registrations is a start, but it reveals gaps in outreach, security fears, and logistical hurdles. Furthermore, of the hundreds of candidates running, only 30% are women, despite a mandated 30% quota in the eventual councils, a quota that experts warn is already at risk of being missed at this initial selection stage. Security is the overwhelming factor. Polling stations are heavily fortified, surrounded by blast walls and checkpoints manned by Somali police and ATMIS forces. Voters are being frisked multiple times. The reason is staring everyone in the face: al-Shabaab. The group has publicly denounced the elections as un-Islamic and a foreign-imposed process. Just days before the voting began, they carried out a complex attack on the SYL Hotel near the presidential palace, a stark reminder of their reach. Expert analysis, like that from the International Crisis Group, frames this not just as an election, but as a counterinsurgency operation. The goal is twofold: to produce legitimate local leadership and to demonstrate that the government, not al-Shabaab, can deliver a peaceful political process. Every ballot cast is a direct rebuttal to the militants' claim of control. But the experts also note the fragility. The voting is not happening simultaneously across the city. It's a slow, district-by-district rollout, precisely because the security forces cannot secure all locations at once. This staggered approach, while necessary, also prolongs the period of high risk and allows al-Shabaab to adapt its tactics. However, this story is not one of unanimous celebration. There are deep and serious criticisms from opposition figures, civil society, and even within the government's own framework. The most prominent opposition viewpoint comes from former presidents and political leaders who argue the process is neither fully inclusive nor transparent. They point to the fact that the election is only happening in districts under firm government control, effectively disenfranchising citizens in outlying or contested areas on the city's periphery. They also raise alarms about the role of clan power brokers. While this is a direct vote, the candidate lists themselves were negotiated and curated through traditional clan agreements. This means the old system of clan-based power sharing, known as the 4.5 formula, is still operating just beneath the surface, potentially limiting truly independent or issue-based candidates. International reactions have been supportive but tinged with caution. The United Nations Assistance Mission in Somalia has provided critical technical and logistical support, calling the vote a stepping stone. The European Union and the United States have issued statements applauding the courage of voters and organizers, but diplomats privately express concern about the pace and the potential for disputes over results to turn violent. The deeper analysis of the implications reveals a fundamental tension. This election is trying to build a modern, direct democracy on top of a society still organized along deeply entrenched clan lines. It is an attempt to transfer legitimacy from clan elders to the individual citizen. If successful, it could create a new social contract between the people and their leaders, based on service delivery rather than clan patronage. This is why local issues like garbage collection, water access, and road repairs are central to some campaigns. But the flip side is dangerous. If the process is seen as hijacked by the same old elites, or if results are contested along clan lines, it could reinforce divisions and provide fresh grievances for al-Shabaab to exploit. The group's narrative that the government is corrupt and illegitimate would gain new fuel. Furthermore, the intense focus on securing Mogadishu has drawn security forces from other regions, potentially creating vulnerabilities elsewhere in the country. Now, let's move beyond the politics and the polling stations to the core of this story, the impact on ordinary Somali citizens. For a mother in the Dainal district, this vote is about the promise of a clinic for her children. For a young entrepreneur in Hammer Wayne, it's about whether the local council will finally pave the road so his customers can reach his shop. For decades, these basic needs have been met, or more often, not met, through an opaque system of clan intermediaries and distant, unaccountable officials. A directly elected councillor, in theory, lives in the neighborhood, can be confronted at the market, and can be voted out if they fail. The economic implications are profound. Legitimate, localized governance is the bedrock for development. International donors and investors have been hesitant to pour resources into projects where accountability is murky. A clear, elected local authority could unlock funding for infrastructure, schools, and job creation programs. It could provide a stable environment for the vibrant Somali business community, which has kept the economy alive through sheer resilience, to truly flourish. Socially, this is a test of national identity. For a generation that has known nothing but conflict, clan loyalty, or al-Shabaab's rule, the act of standing in line with neighbors from different clans to choose a common leader is a powerful symbol. It's a potential shift from "what clan are you from?" to "what does our neighborhood need?" The political ramifications cascade upward. Successful local elections build a foundation for the parliamentary and presidential votes planned under the one person, one vote model. They create a cohort of politicians with a direct mandate, changing the calculus in Mogadishu's power games. But what happens next is a cliffhanger. Immediately after voting concludes, the focus shifts to tallying and announcing results. This is the most perilous phase. Any perception of rigging or manipulation could trigger street protests or clan violence. The Electoral Commission's ability to transparently count and announce results will be its biggest test. Following that, the newly formed district councils must immediately get to work. They will face enormous expectations with likely very small budgets. Their performance in solving mundane, daily problems will determine whether the public's faith in this democratic experiment grows or evaporates before the national elections even begin. What are the experts saying about all this? We've compiled analysis from regional scholars, security analysts, and Somali political commentators. Dr. Omar Mahmoud, senior analyst for Eastern Africa at the International Crisis Group, notes, "This is less about the immediate outcome and more about the process. The goal is to prove the concept can work in a high-threat environment. Even a moderately clean process with acceptable disputes will be hailed as a success." He compares it to early electoral exercises in post-conflict states like Liberia or Sierra Leone, where the initial focus was simply on completing the cycle without major violence. However, other experts, like Professor Afier Abdi Elmi at Qatar University, warn of the democratic facade risk. He argues that without a simultaneous, genuine break from the clan-based 4.5 system, the new councils may simply repackage old power structures, leading to public disillusionment. Predictions are split. The optimistic forecast sees Mogadishu's vote providing a proven template. Other federal states like Galmudug and Hirshabelle, which are relatively more stable, could hold their own local votes within months, building momentum for the national election. The pessimistic forecast warns of a domino effect of failure. A major security breach, a bitterly contested result, or a collapse in public trust in Mogadishu could cause other regional leaders, who are already skeptical of ceding control to a direct vote, to pull out of the national agreement entirely. This could lead to a dual-track system, where some regions vote directly and others revert to the old indirect model, creating a constitutional crisis and potentially fracturing the fragile federal structure. The consensus is that the path forward will be messy, uneven, and fraught with setbacks. But the very fact that it is happening at all is a testament to a profound weariness with war and a persistent hunger for a voice among the Somali people. The key takeaway from Mogadishu today is this: democracy is being rebuilt one dangerous, deliberate step at a time. This vote is not the finish line, it's the starting gun. Watch closely for the official results and how disputes are handled. Watch to see if the new councillors can deliver tangible change. And watch to see if other Somali regions find the courage to follow suit. The future of Somalia's stability is being written in those polling stations. For continuous, in-depth coverage of this historic development and all the news that matters across our region, subscribe to Kenya News Update today for more breaking news.